A very good morning to all of you. I welcome you all to Ansarkari, and I hope that you all must be doing great as always. So, today we'll be analyzing different newspapers again from the perspective and their importance for the civil services examination. So, let's start with today's analysis for 21st of March 2023. So, we'll be looking into topics like caste certificate was incorrect as per this is basically has been ruled by a high court, and an LDF MLA has been disqualified. So we'll be looking into the nitty-gritties of this topic. Next is regarding climate change. UN panel calls for deep and rapid action. And we've been seeing that Parliament is being stalled every single day, so it is not able to function. And so let's start with the analysis then. So Kishida calls for unified stand on the global order. So Japanese Prime Minister, he's in India, and there were discussions over Ukraine issue, G7, G20 agendas, and bilateral ties with the Indian Prime Minister during his visit to India to launch the new plan for a free and open Indo-Pacific. So as we know that Indo-Pacific has been a very important region for not just the countries which are there in the Indo-Pacific region, for even other countries which are not a part or which are not close to it. So given that, so we like every single day whenever we are discussing the context, either it is relationship between India and any other country. So one point which is present everywhere is regarding the Indo-Pacific. So Russia's war in Ukraine obliges Japan and India to a common stand on the importance of maintaining the international order, and that's there. So discussions were regarding coordinating the agendas of the G7, which is going to be held in Hiroshima in May this year, and then also regarding G20, which is happening in Delhi. We're having different summits. So a number of issues like debt financing, food and energy security, they were discussed. And basically, main point ये था कि it is important to have common agenda, common goals होने चाहिए, and a few of them would be, or it should be, regarding the debt financing, food and energy security. And obviously, it is important to ensure that we are taking actions for a free and open Indo-Pacific. So these were some of the key highlights and the key points on which discussions were held. So severity of the COVID variant XBB 1.16 is not alarming. So a newly detected variant of the COVID-19 virus is behind the current surge in the cases across the country. So जैसे कि हम रोज देख ही रहे हैं कि COVID-19 cases they are again increasing. So जो अभी current variant है that is newly detected, but अभी as of now there is no cause of concern regarding this variant. So that's there. And next is that consulate vandalized in San Francisco. India lodges protest with US. So this is an issue which has been recently merged. So a man was arrested for the tricolor being brought down outside the Indian High Commission in London, according to the UK's Metropolitan Police. And India has launched a strong protest on Monday with the United States over the vandalism by pro-Khalistan elements targeting its consulate in San Francisco. So you can see that pro-Khalistani protesters, or who are the supporters, the proponents of it, they are like being active in even in other countries. So given this thing, obviously India has lodged protest with the US regarding this issue and over this incident. So in addition to vandalism at India's diplomatic missions in San Francisco and even London, there were reports that Indian high commissioners to Canada, he had to cancel an event after the sword-wielding individuals gathered at a venue demanding an end to the police action against the fugitive Waris Punjab, the leader Amrit Pal Singh in Punjab. So you can see that action is being taken against him. Basically, the police is trying to arrest him, to catch him, and you can see the repercussions of it, how his supporters, they are even, behaving, or how they are acting in order to ensure that basically he gets saved. So obviously that is not going to be possible. So these are some disturbing elements which are now being active even in other countries. So Delhi's per capita income grew by 7.5% in 2022-23 as per a survey. And Delhi's economy has recovered faster than national average after COVID-19. This is as per the state's economic survey, and debt is up, but the problem is well under the control. So debt increase hui hai, but when we talk about the pace of recovery of the capital, वो काफी fast रहा है as per that it has been more than the national average. So there's going to be the apricot blossom Ladakh, which is it in basically it would be there in the Chuli Mintok and 2023. So between 4th to 18th of April, and Ladakh Discover Yourself. So G20 basically in late would be there in different places. You can see Takmachik, which is there in Ladakh. So these are different places which are there in Ladakh, then in Kargil also. So come and enjoy the mesmerizing apricot flower blossom in Ladakh, and it's a visual delight along with the cultural programs that would be hosted. So local handicraft exhibition would be there, display come sale of the apricot products would be there. So, but basically this is going to be happen there in Ladakh. Moving forward, so nation's first ever large-scale commercial plantation drive, it is happening there in Chhattisgarh. So on 21st of March, on the occasion of the International Day of Forest. So 21st March is celebrated as the International Day of Forest. And there is another key important day, that is 8th of March, which we celebrate as International Women's Day. So here, Chhattisgarh government, it launches the Mukhyamantri Vriksh Sampada Yojana. So as I told you, it is going to be the nation's first large-scale commercial plantation drive. And 23,000 farmers across all the 33 districts, they are set to carry out the commercial tree plantation. So 23,600 farmers, they would be participating in this drive, and for the first time in the country, there will be guaranteed procurement of trees of identified species at the minimum support price, and target to plant trees on 180,000 acres of land within the next 5 years. They're going to harness the untapped potential of the wood-based industry. And farmers, they can earn additional annual income of up to rupees 50,000. So potential for adding in for additional income by monetizing the carbon credits. Coming to editorials, so concluding on a high note in Manhattan, so we are seeing that India has concluded its eighth stint in the United Nations Security Council at the end of December 2022, and by any yardstick, its 2-year stint has been unprecedented. So that period has ended, and it has been the privilege. It has been my privilege to serve as India's ambassador, permanent representative in council for 18 out of the 24 months. So, as per the author, it has been written by T.S. Trimurti, so who is an ambassador, a permanent representative of India to the United Nations in New York between 2020-2022, and the president of the United Nations Security Council for August 2021 as well. So UN had begun conducting its sessions virtually, and fortunately by May 2021, the UNSC resumed physical meetings in the council chamber as well. So hitting the ground running. So when we entered the council on 1st of January 2021, we had clear priorities. So India had clear priorities when the council began its functioning. So basically, India focused on inter alia on the maritime security, terrorism, UN peacekeeping, reformed multilateralism, and the global south. So these were the key priorities of India. So you need to keep all these keywords in your mind. ये सारे keywords आपके दिमाग में होने चाहिए. You need to remember them. And India was elected chair of 3 important UNSC committees also. So ये committees बहुत important हो जाती है हमारे लिए. And the structure and obviously they become important because India was elected as a chair of these 3 committees. So the first was the Taliban Sanctions Committee, second the Libyan Sanctions Committee, and third was the Counter-Terrorism Committee. So in this context, you need to be aware about what is India's policy over terrorism and क्या इंडिया ने इनिशिएटिव्स लिए हैं against terrorism, against basically combating the terrorism. So Prime Minister of India chaired for the first time a UNSC meeting on maritime security, and presidential statement issued was the first holistic document on this issue, which for the first time had a direct reference to UN Convention on the Law of the Seas. So this is as the international law setting out the legal framework in the context of the maritime activities. So जब हम international convention की बात करें या कोई ऐसा international law which is talking about the safety of maritime activities, so वो है United Nations Convention on the Law of the Seas. So India called for freedom of navigation, anti-piracy, and combating terror and transnational crime at sea. So these were some of the important points which were highlighted by India. And there was a military takeover in Myanmar on 1st of Feb 2021, soon after which India came into the council. So the Permanent Five, they were pulling in the opposite directions, while the Association of the Southeast Asian Nations, that is ASEAN, they cancelled the question. So India shares a nearly 1,700-kilometer long border with Myanmar, and it was vital to stop the violence which was taking place in Myanmar. So bring the situation in stability and ensure that democratic processes they went forward in Myanmar. So India ensured balanced and comprehensive council pronouncements, which finally culminated in a resolution on Myanmar in December 2022. So India की presidency के under a resolution on Myanmar was adopted. So India being a neighbor and Myanmar के साथ we share a 1,700-kilometer long border. So it was basically important कि we don't ignore this issue which is happening, which was basically military took over in Myanmar. So उसके बाद situation became very violent, very unstable in Myanmar. So it was important कि वहाँ पे violence रुके and there is stability in political and economic spheres, and जो democratic processes हैं they are brought back. So on all this issue of Myanmar, India की presidency के under a resolution on Myanmar was adopted in December 2022. And in August 2021, Taliban forcefully seized power in Afghanistan. So we know that Taliban regime, it is back in Afghanistan. So India was able to stir the negotiations, which resulted in UNSC resolution 2593, which laid down benchmarks. So that was on stopping the cross-border terrorism from the Afghan soil, including from the proscribed UN terrorist entities in Pakistan, protecting the rights of women, minorities, and children, ensuring an inclusive government, and providing humanitarian assistance. So हमें पता है कि 2021 से तालिबान regime it came to power in Afghanistan, and उसके बाद India was basically played an important role in a resolution basically that was named UNSC resolution 2593. So this can come in prelims, so आपको पता होना चाहिए, you need to remember this number also for that, and but you need to just have a clear idea, ज़्यादा डिटेल में जाने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. So basically इसका main जो रोल था या जो ideas थे, जो points थे of this resolution, that was कि it is important कि there is no cross-border terrorism from the Afghanistan soil. Secondly, also even from the UN terrorist entities which are there in Pakistan. So कोई terrorist activities नहीं होनी चाहिए basically from Afghanistan and Pakistan. Second was women, minorities and children की rights को protect करना. And third, inclusive government should be there. And lastly, humanitarian assistance भी provide की जानी चाहिए. So that's there. And so it was during the Ukraine conflict that India's independent stand calling for dialogue and peace struck a chord with many developing countries, since they themselves were affected by the unilateral sanctions. So all levers were being weaponized, and India spoke out against such sanctions inter alia on oil, food, and fertilizers. So जब Russia-Ukraine war start हुआ, so basically India was against the sanctions, जो भी sanctions put किए जा रहे थे on oil, food, and fertilizers. So India was not in support of these sanctions being imposed on Russia in these three sectors. So with this conflict spilling over into India's G20 presidency, it is time for India as a credible voice to launch an initiative to convert its proactive position into action. So basically, India is the president, India is heading a G20 as of now. So obviously, the Russia-Ukraine war, its impact, we are seeing it even in G20, क्योंकि यहाँ पे भी we are not able to basically come with a joint statement, क्योंकि we are witnessing कि रशिया और चाइना एक साइड हो गए हैं and बाकी countries, the western world, they are on the other side. So उसकी वजह से we are also facing some difficulties in the functioning of G20 meetings as well. So it is important जो इंडिया की proactive position थी, we need to convert it into action if we want smoother functioning of G20 presidency. So India has definitely enhanced the focus on terrorism. So काफी टाइम से इंडिया इंटरनेशनली हाईलाइट कर रहा है टेररिज्म का इशू, एंड एज द चेयर ऑफ यूएनएससी काउंटर टेररिज्म कमिटी आल्सो, इंडिया brought the CTC meeting to India in October 2022. So there was a meeting also in India. So while India's attempt to list the terrorists under the UNSC resolution 1267 sanctions that was thwarted in a significant development, the proposal to list Abdul Rahman Makki, Deputy Amir, who's also the chief of Lashkar-e-Taiba, that was approved by UNSC. So this listing was the first with India as a proposer. So India ने propose किया था that this person, Abdul Rahman Makki, इसको basically जो proposal list थी जो इंडिया ने proposal दिया था, basically it was for the very first time कि इंडिया का proposal was sanctioned. So that was approved and that was one thing. So यहाँ पे UNSC resolution 1267 की बात हो रही है. And talking about UN peacekeeping, जो again India ने highlight किया था. So India has been the largest contributor of UN peacekeepers, including as a pioneer in the women peacekeeping. So not just India not just it is the largest contributor of UN peacekeeping forces, but अगर हम women की बात करें तो women maybe in women peacekeeping, sending the women forces, India has been the first country. So definitely India का role बहुत important हो जाता है, and its launches of the Unite Ovre technology platform. So this platform was there to strengthen the real-time protection of the peacekeepers, is to be noted. So real-time protection of peacekeepers के लिए there was this platform जो इंडिया ने launch किया, which was named Unite Ovre Technology. So in August 2021, we piloted the first UNSC resolution by India in more than 5 decades. So India के द्वारा पहला UNSC resolution was presented in August 2021, which called for accountability for the crimes against the peacekeepers. So it is important to hold the people accountable जो भी responsible है for the crimes against the peacekeeping forces. So we gifted 2 lakh vaccines to all the UN peacekeepers also. So even in terms of providing vaccines, India का बहुत important role रहा है. So that's there, and our focus on developing world, especially Africa and the West Asia, was enhanced given our close historical relations. So जब हम global south की बात करते हैं, and obviously global south में developing countries हैं, so this thing is also being highlighted by India कि especially for Africa and West Asia, जो भी countries हैं उनको support दिया जाना चाहिए, and obviously इस region के साथ इंडिया के historical relations भी रहे हैं. So it is important कि we focus on these two main areas also as far as the global south is concerned. Apart from that, in December 2021, we thwarted a move by the West to wrest the climate change from the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change. It led a climate change-led process and bring it under the ambit of the UNSC. So basically, USA was trying कि जो UN Framework Convention है on climate change, उसको UNSC के अंडर लेके आना चाहिए. And basically, India obviously did not support this thing. So obviously, UNSC में हमें पता है कि P5 they are the most powerful, they have the veto power, so obviously ultimately they becomes very powerful. So agar this would have been shifted or brought under UNSC, so that would not be in favor of basically the developing countries. And P5 countries, all of them are the major historical polluters also. So जहाँ तक कि क्लाइमेट फाइनेंस की भी बात करते हैं तो एक इशू ये भी है कि फॉर देयर हिस्टोरिकल रॉन्ग्स जो डेवलप्ड वर्ल्ड है दे नीड टू प्रोवाइड क्लाइमेट फाइनेंस टू द डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज. सो इसके ऊपर भी इशू है एंड जो भी एज पर द टारगेट्स थिंग्स आर नॉट हैपनिंग एज फार एज क्लाइमेट फाइनेंस इज कंसर्न्ड. So in a first, India also raised the issue of contemporary form of religiophobia on basically in the council, when while condemning the phobia against Abrahamic religions, it forcefully put forth the need to combat rising hate crimes that we are seeing, and the phobia is against non-Abrahamic religions as well. So this was another thing जो इंडिया ने सबसे पहली बार raise किया है. So with hate crimes being fueled abroad by the vested interest, India's stand needs to be robustly taken forward. So obviously, it becomes important because we are seeing such hate crimes. They are on the rise in different countries. So it is important to tackle this issue also. So the culmination was a discussion under the India's presidency on the need for immediate reform of the council. So end में आते आते we closed on this topic of कि there is an immediate need for reforming the UNSC, and the Indian team's performance over 2 years is testimony to why India needs to be at the horseshoe table permanently. So जो भी इंडिया ने बेसिकली इश्यूज रेज किए, जो भी हमने स्टेप्स लिए इन 2 सालों में, it is basically showing कि why India needs to be at basically at UNSC, why India needs to be a permanent member also. So these were some of the things and the important points जो इंडिया ने हाईलाइट किए एंड क्या इनिशिएटिव्स इंडिया ने रेज किए, क्या इंडिया का स्टैंड है ऑन डिफरेंट टॉपिक्स. सो वो हमने कॉम्प्रिहेंसिवली देख लिया है थ्रू दिस आर्टिकल. सो सीरियल सोल्यूशन, सो कल भी हमने बात करी थी कि फूड इन्फ्लेशन बहुत ज़्यादा है एंड फूड इन्फ्लेशन वाला जो कॉम्पोनेंट है जहाँ तक कि हम इन्फ्लेशन की बात करते हैं, सो ऑब्वियसली दैट इज ऑन अ राइज एंड उसको टैकल करने के लिए टाइट मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी हेल्प नहीं करने वाली है. सो एज अ सोल्यूशन टू कंटेन द इन्फ्लेशन इन फूड आइटम्स, इट इज़ इम्पोर्टेंट कि हम सप्लाई साइड मेजर्स ले. सो सप्लाई साइड मेजर्स में डोमेस्टिक प्रोडक्शन अगर अच्छा होगा, दैट वुड बी हेल्पफुल इन रिड्यूसिंग इन्फ्लेशन, फूड इन्फ्लेशन. एंड साथ ही साथ कुछ आइटम्स का हम इम्पोर्ट भी कर सकते हैं, सो दैट वुड ऑल्सो हेल्प अस इन इंक्रीजिंग द सप्लाई. सो सप्लाई इंक्रीज हो जाएगा, डिमांड बेसिकली अभी डिमांड ज़्यादा है दैन द सप्लाई, सो उसकी वजह से देर इज हाई अमाउंट ऑफ फूड इन्फ्लेशन. एंड अभी यू कैन सी कि राइट नाउ दी like unseasonal rainfall हो रही है, wind speed is so much high, there is hailstorms. So उसकी वजह से जो अभी भी standing crop है वो भी damage हुआ है, specifically in states like पंजाब and हरियाणा. So उसकी वजह से आने वाले टाइम में inflation और increase हो सकती है as far as cereal inflation is concerned. So cereal inflation के लिए जो solution है, that जो major impact लेके आ सकता है, that is the supply side measures and not the tight monetary policy. So wide disparities in human development. So definitely we know that India is one of the fastest growing economies globally. And however, this growth, it has not resulted in a corresponding increase in its human development index. So definitely India mein we are progressing ahead. Hamari country basically जो growth register कर रही है, that is showing कि India is the fastest growing economies. But in that context, proportionally we are not seeing कि human development index भी उसी तरीके से perform कर रहा है. So that is one of the concerns. So basically human development index, it is a composite statistical measure which is created by the United Nations Development Program. So इस type के questions already prelims में पूछे जा चुके हैं, and on this also as far as I can recall इस पे भी top basically question आ चुका है. सो हमें ये पता होना चाहिए कि बेसिकली कौन सा इंडेक्स किसके द्वारा पब्लिश किया जाता है. सो HDI, it is published by the UNDP, and that is basically it evaluates and compares the level of human development in different regions around the world. So obviously नाम ही क्लियर है, ह्यूमन डेवलपमेंट इंडेक्स, और डिफरेंट कंट्रीज में बेसिकली ह्यूमन डेवलपमेंट को असेस करना, कौन सी कंट्री अच्छे से परफॉर्म कर रही है, विच कंट्रीज आर लैकिंग. सो ये हमें पता चलता है थ्रू दिस ह्यूमन डेवलपमेंट इंडेक्स. So basically, ये index introduced किया गया था in 1990, and this was an alternative to the conventional economic measures such as GDP. So basically 1990 से पहले हम कैसे ह्यूमन डेवलपमेंट को मेजर करते थे, या हमें कैसे पता चलता था, कैसे हम उसको असेस करते थे, तो दैट वाज मेनली थ्रू GDP, ग्रॉस डोमेस्टिक प्रोडक्ट. सो बट हम ये नहीं बोल सकते, क्योंकि ऑब्वियसली अगर GDP इंक्रीज हो रही है तो दिस इज नॉट ट्रू कि ह्यूमन डेवलपमेंट भी हो रही है. So this relationship is not true. And HDI, it assesses a country's average accomplishment in 3 aspects. So 3 जो indicators हैं under HDI, that includes long and healthy life को assess किया जाता है, knowledge को assess किया जाता है, decent standard of living को assess किया जाता है. So according to the HDI report of 2021-22, India's rank is 132 out of 191 countries, which is really bad. So we are lacking behind, and this is behind even Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. So Sri Lanka और Bangladesh से भी पीछे है India as far as human development is concerned. So given India का size इतना बड़ा है, we have such a large population, it is important and critical कि we address this subnational or state-wise disparities in the human development. So जब हम state-wise भी देखें human development across India in different states, वहाँ पे भी obviously it is not possible कि सारी states uniformly perform करेगी, या फिर सारी states they are on the same page. So state-wise also we are seeing disparities in human development. So calculating HDI, so HDI is calculated using the 4 indicators. So indicators, there are 4. So first one is life expectancy at birth. Next is mean years of schooling. Then we have expected years of schooling. So ये जो last के दो भी मैंने बताया, this is for education. First one is for life and health, and last one is for the standard of living, that is the gross national income per capita. So indicators भी हमें पता होने चाहिए कौन कौन से indicators हैं, and डिफरेंट सर्वेज जो इंडिया में किए जाते हैं उससे इसके लिए डेटा कलेक्ट किया जाता है. सो गवर्नमेंट मस्ट प्रायोरिटाइज ह्यूमन डेवलपमेंट अलोंगसाइड द इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ टू इंश्योर दैट द बेनिफिट्स ऑफ ग्रोथ दे आर मोर इवनली डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड. सो ऑब्वियसली जहाँ तक कि इवन इकोनॉमिक इनइक्वालिटी की बात है, सो इकोनॉमिक इनइक्वालिटी इज ऑल्सो वेरी हाई इन इंडिया. सो गवर्नमेंट को प्रायोरिटाइज करना चाहिए ह्यूमन डेवलपमेंट अलोंगसाइड इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ. सो जैसे कि अभी मैंने बोला कि अगर GDP इंक्रीज हो रही है तो इट इज नॉट इम्पॉर्टेंट कि ह्यूमन डेवलपमेंट भी हो रहा है. So economic growth is completely different. So we need not just focus upon the economic growth. So economic growth पे focus definitely होना चाहिए. उसके साथ ही साथ it is important and government की priority पे भी होना चाहिए human development. And India में जब हम human development की भी बात कर रहे हैं तो obviously we have one more advantage of demographic dividend. So जिसमें skills play an important role. So जब हमारा human capital would be skilled, then only we can say कि we have that demographic dividend, we have that advantage, and उसके बाद ही we can take its advantage या हम उसको utilize कर सकते हैं. Otherwise it is futile. India would not be able to leverage or take upon this opportunity of demographic dividend. So we'll basically kind miss the bus. So जो basically आर्टिकल बोल रहा है, जो methodology यूज की जाती है इन कैलकुलेटिंग HDI, so उसमें कुछ चेंजेस होने चाहिए. एंड जो HDI ह्यूमन डेवलपमेंट इंडेक्स है उसका स्कोर है बिटवीन द रेंज ऑफ 0 to 1. सो जहाँ वैल्यूज हायर रहेगी वो इंडिकेट करता है कि उन कंट्रीज में देयर इज हाई अमाउंट ऑफ ह्यूमन डेवलपमेंट. सो दैट इज वन थिंग. सो इंडिया में टॉप 5 स्टेट्स कौन सी है? दैट इंक्लूड्स दिल्ली, गोवा, केरला, सिक्किम एंड चंडीगढ़. सो दीज आर द टॉप 5 स्टेट्स विद हाईएस्ट HDI scores in India. एंड बॉटम 5 स्टेट्स में आती हैं बिहार, उत्तर प्रदेश, मध्य प्रदेश, झारखंड एंड असम. सो दीज आर द बॉटम 5 स्टेट्स. So reasons क्या है of these discrepancies and disparities? So one of the main reasons for this discrepancy is that economic growth has been unevenly distributed. So obviously economic growth भी different states में differently distributed है, different states differently perform करते हैं. So this is one reason कि even HDI is also different because of this thing. And top 10% of the Indian population, it holds 77% of the wealth. So this is economic inequality also. ये show करता है कि इंडिया में क्या स्केल है, क्या इंटेंसिटी है ऑफ इकोनॉमिक इनइक्वालिटी. सो जो टॉप 10% ऑफ द पॉपुलेशन है उनके पास ही टोटल 77% ऑफ इंडियाज वेल्थ है. सो यू कैन इमेजिन कि how intense is this economic disparity. And another reason is that while India has made significant progress in reducing poverty and increasing access to healthcare and education, the quality of such services that remains a concern. So ये तो हमने इंश्योर कर दिया है कि बेसिकली पॉवर्टी हमने काफी हद तक कम कर दी है, बट स्टिल इंडिया में मैक्सिमम अमाउंट ऑफ पुअर पीपल अभी भी हैं. सो उस फ्रंट पे हमें काम करने की जरूरत है. एंड सेकेंडली हमने ये इंश्योर तो कर दिया कि हेल्थ केयर एंड एजुकेशन लोगों तक पहुंच रही है. अब नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन आता है कि क्या क्वालिटी ऑफ हेल्थ केयर एंड एजुकेशन इज रीचिंग देम. सो दैट इज द मेन क्वेश्चन एंड मेन कंसर्न नाउ. And government must prioritize human development alongside the economic growth to ensure that benefits of growth, they are more evenly distributed. So this requires multifaceted approach that addresses income inequality, gender inequality. It improves access to quality social services, addresses environmental challenges जो हमें face करने पड़ रहे हैं, provides for greater investment in social infrastructure जो कि health में, education, basic household amenities में होनी चाहिए. सो दीज कैन बी सम ऑफ दी स्टेप्स जो गवर्नमेंट को लेने चाहिए. गवर्नमेंट ले भी रही है. वी कैन नॉट से कि गवर्नमेंट इज नॉट टेकिंग एक्शंस इन दीज डाइवर्स एरियाज. सो इवन बेसिकली इंटरनेट इन द अंडर डेवलप्ड स्टेट्स, सो उसका एक्सेस भी पहुंचना चाहिए. इंटरनेट पेनिट्रेशन की यहाँ पे हम बात कर रहे हैं. सो इंडिया मस्ट प्रायोरिटाइज इट्स इन्वेस्टमेंट्स इन ह्यूमन डेवलपमेंट एंड जॉब क्रिएशन, पर्टिकुलरली फॉर द यूथ, जैसे कि हमने बात करी थी डेमोग्राफिक डिविडेंड की. So what is this zoonosis theory? So what are the two theories with regards to the origins of SARS-CoV-2 virus which caused COVID-19 pandemic? So इससे regarding भी अभी theories चल रही है क्योंकि we are not for sure कि कहाँ से basically this COVID-19 virus originated, इसका क्या source है. So regarding that we have the zoonosis theory. So coming to the gist of this article, so undisclosed genetic data from a food market in Wuhan that has been unearthed and it is being used to support the zoonosis theory over the lab leak theory. So एक theory है lab leak theory and the second is zoonosis theory. So अभी recently कुछ डेटा बेसिकली हमें मिला है रिगार्डिंग द जेनेटिक डेटा फ्रॉम अ फूड मार्केट जो कि वुहान दैट इज इन चाइना इट इज लोकेटेड. सो इट इज पॉइंटिंग टुवर्ड्स की जूनोसिस थ्योरी कैन बी अ पॉसिबिलिटी ओवर द लैब लीक थ्योरी. सो लैब लीक थ्योरी यही बोलती है कि एक लैब में से दिस वायरस वाज रिलीज्ड एंड व्हिच वाज बेस्ड इन चाइना. So this is one theory जिससे COVID-19 spread massively in different countries. And Chinese team, it has reportedly collected samples from the Hunan seafood wholesale market, which showed that several samples from the market containing the virus also had human genetic material in them. So this is one finding. And another, that critics of the animal transmission theory, they are demanding specifics and details on the spillover, while virologists, they say it would be impossible to get that level of data. So data bhi abhi obviously it has been so many years, almost 3 years we can say, ki COVID-19 started in 2020. So it is difficult to get the data. And जो ये zoonosis theory है basically it says कि animals में से this virus came and it basically transmitted to humans, and that's how we saw the beginning of COVID-19. So other foreign law firms, they are allowed in India or not? So क्या foreign law firms India में अब allowed कर दी गई हैं कि नहीं? So basically इससे regarding क्या rules of registration हैं and rule for foreign lawyers क्या हैं, foreign law firms in India 2022 के regarding क्या सारे rules हैं, and how is this move mutually beneficial to India and the foreign lawyers? So ये इंडिया को कैसे हेल्प करने वाली है, and साथ ही साथ जो foreign law firms इंडिया में आने वाली है उनको भी क्या फायदा होने वाला है क्योंकि तभी वो इंडिया में एंटर करेंगी. So 5 years after the Supreme Court allowed the foreign law firms and foreign lawyers to visit India on a temporary period for giving legal advice to their clients. Bar Council of India, it is a statutory body governing the legal practice in India. It has framed rules that allowed them to open their offices in India. So finally, foreign law firms जो हैं इंडिया में अपने offices open कर सकती हैं, and this has been allowed by the Bar Council of India. So that's there. And सुप्रीम कोर्ट का क्या कहना है इससे रिगार्डिंग? सो 2018 में a division bench of justices A.K. Goel and U.U. Lalit, they had ruled that foreign law firms or the foreign lawyers, they cannot practice law in the country either on the litigation or non-litigation side. So वो इंडिया में practice नहीं कर सकते हैं, but यहाँ पे you can see कि वो अपनी basically legal advice देने के लिए they can come into India. You can see temporary period के लिए for giving legal advice. So that has been allowed and they can open their offices in India also. Supreme Court ने बोला कि they cannot practice, that is not allowed for them. However, the court said that there was no bar on the foreign law firms or the foreign lawyers visiting India for a temporary period for giving legal advice to their clients. So temporary period के लिए they can visit India for giving their legal advices. So that has been allowed by the Supreme Court also. So the court had also asked the Bar Council of India to make appropriate rules in this regard. So Bar Council of India ने इस regarding rules भी बनाए हैं. So rules क्या है? Let's have a look at that. So 10th of March, we saw कि Bar Council of India, it notified the rules for the registration and regulation of the foreign lawyers and the foreign law firms in India, 2022. So finally, we have them, and this will enable the foreign lawyers and the law firms to practice the foreign law, their international law, international arbitration, joint ventures, mergers, acquisitions, intellectual property matters, etc. on reciprocal basis. So they can get into all these things. And rules का कहना ये है कि this would also help to address the concerns expressed about the flow of the foreign direct investment into the country and would help make India a hub for the international commercial arbitration also. So इस चीज में भी इंडिया को help कर सकता है. And foreign lawyers and firms, they have to submit an undertaking that they shall not practice Indian law in any form or before any court of law. So वो practice नहीं कर सकते हैं. This is not allowed to them. And legal fraternity in India is not likely to suffer any disadvantage in case law practice in India is opened up to the foreign lawyers in a restricted and regulated manner. So अगर एक restricted manner, regulated manner में अगर आने वाले टाइम में उनको अलाउ भी किया जाता है टू प्रैक्टिस लॉ इन इंडिया, सो जो इंडिया की लीगल फ्रेटर्निटी है उनको ऐसा कोई डिसएडवांटेज इससे नहीं होना चाहिए. So this is mainly because the principle of reciprocity in the rules ensures that it would be mutually beneficial for the lawyers from India and abroad. So mutually दोनों को beneficial होने वाली है ये चीज, and this is the principle of reciprocity. So BCI basically Bar Council of India की क्या powers है? So for the foreign lawyers and the firms to practice in India, a primary qualification is required in the form of a certificate by a competent authority of their country, which states that they are entitled to practice law in that country. So उनके पास basically जो foreign lawyers हैं या firms हैं उनके पास एक certificate होना चाहिए जिस पे लिखा हो या which mentions about कि they can practice law of that particular country. So their registration in India with the Bar Council of India is mandatory. So अगर उनको Indian law practice करना भी है तो it is important कि firstly they are registered with the Bar Council of India and that is mandatory for them. And obviously license that must be renewed every 5 years. So हर 5 साल में license renew होगा, certificate renew होगा. Moreover, Bar Council of India that has the right to refuse to register. So obviously Bar Council of India के पास ये right भी है कि it can refuse to allow any foreign lawyer या foreign law firm to practice Indian law. So these are some of the powers of the Bar Council of India. So इसके क्या implications होने वाले हैं? Let's have a look at that. So different personalities का अलग-अलग कहना है over this issue. So some clarity is required around what reciprocity means before we see the foreign law firms registering in India. So basically they are asking for more clarity कि जब हम प्रिंसिपल ऑफ रेसिप्रोसिटी की बात करते हैं तो रेसिप्रोसिटी को और डिटेल में समझना इज इम्पोर्टेंट, उस पर थोड़ा और क्लैरिटी होना वुड हेल्प अस. एंड अगर फॉरेन लॉ फॉर्म सेटअप की भी जाती हैं सो इट वुड बी ह्यूज फॉर द कॉर्पोरेट लीगल प्रैक्टिस इन इंडिया एज कॉम्पिटिशन कैन ओनली लीड टू इम्प्रूवमेंट इन द लीगल सर्विसेज. सो अगर लीगल सर्विसेज में और कॉम्पिटिशन होगा तो उसकी ऑब्वियसली क्वालिटी एफिशिएंसी सब इम्प्रूव हो सकती है. एंड दिस इज पॉसिबल विद द coming in of the foreign law firms in India. So that can be one of the positives also for the Indian legal services. So these are some of the things, and as of now these are the new developments. So majorly यही था कि बार काउंसिल ऑफ इंडिया ने न्यू रूल्स लेके आए हैं regarding the foreign law firms and the foreign lawyers who would be setting up their offices in India. So Parliament still remains stalled, so it is not functioning. Yesterday we talked about this thing in detail also. कि India में basically is the democracy diminishing or not. So 45 points हमने देखे, which were basically that article was written by P. Chidambaram. So we had a look at that article. So in that context, that article becomes important. Moving forward. So farmers, again, they remain the center of their unfulfilled promises and they seek MSP guarantee for the crops. So the farmers agitation हुआ था, obviously अभी भी कुछ उनके promises हैं जो अभी तक fulfill नहीं किए गए हैं, and one of them is की guarantee of MSP. So MSP पे law लेके आने की उनकी एक demand थी जो अभी तक fulfill नहीं की गई है. So they are basically reminding the center again, and they are basically farmers. One of the important organization was the Kisan was Kisan Morcha, Samyukt Kisan Morcha, I should say, sorry. So it is under Samyukt Kisan Morcha would play an important role. So farmers, they're attending Kisan Mahapanchayat at Ramlila Maidan in New Delhi. So that's there. So as per the ministry, it says that women staff in public sector banks has increased. So proportion of women employees has increased in the past years in all but one public sector bank and as many as 3 banks. They now have around 30% share. So women ka jo proportion hai in different public sector banks, that is increasing. So in this context, gender equality becomes important, and India seeks increased security for High Commission in London. So in this picture, you can see India's flag has been hosted. So a protester chanting pro-Khalistan slogans attempts to grab the tricolor at the Indian High Commission in London on Sunday. And in the right picture, you can see the larger tricolor was reinstated on the facade. So pro-Khalistani basically pro-Khalistani supporters, they have become active in London. And ये हमने starting में देख लिया था ये article, so that's there. So United Nations panel का कहना ये है rapid action against climate change is needed. Rapid action is needed against climate change. So failing to limit the global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius will result in irreversible impact on certain ecosystems. So अगर 1.5 degree Celsius से temperature increase होता है तो हम वापस से पहले वाली सिचुएशन में नहीं जा पाएंगे. सो कुछ इरिवर्सिबल इम्पैक्ट्स ऐसे होंगे जिनको हम वापस से चेंज या मिटिगेट नहीं कर सकते हैं, एंड उसका कुछ ऐसे इकोसिस्टम्स हैं जिसपे बहुत ज्यादा मेजर अमाउंट ऑफ इम्पैक्ट हो सकता है. सो दैट्स व्हाई यूनाइटेड नेशंस इज सेइंग कि रैपिड एक्शन इज नीडेड अगेंस्ट क्लाइमेट चेंज, एंड it also warns of a rapidly closing window of this opportunity. So अगर रैपिड एक्शन नहीं लिया गया इस पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम पे, so we'll miss this opportunity, and right now even this opportunity, the window is closing down. So that's one thing. And definitely climate justice, climate finance, ये सारी चीजें न्यूज में रहती हैं. So climate justice, it is crucial because those who have contributed least to the climate change, they are being disproportionately affected. So जिन countries ने basically उनका contribution towards climate change बहुत ही कम रहा है in terms of accelerating climate change, उन कंट्रीज के ऊपर भी प्रोपोर्शनेटली बहुत ज्यादा इफेक्ट हो रहा है. सो यहाँ पे हम डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज का बोल सकते हैं कि जो हिस्टोरिकली डेवलप्ड वन ने द वे दे बेसिकली expanded and they become developed countries, उसके वजह से impacts आज developing world को face करने पड़ रहे हैं. सो इंटरपोल से रिलेटेड हमें पता होना चाहिए कि रेड नोटिस क्या होता है एंड देर आर ऑल्सो डिफरेंट नोटिस. सो उसका आप एक बार यू कैन जस्ट हैव अ लुक एट दैट. सो जो इंटरपोल ने रेड notice issue किया था against Mehul Choksi, that has been taken down. So in a major setback to the Indian agencies, Interpol, it has taken down from its website the red notice against the fugitive diamond merchant Mehul Choksi. So यहाँ पे fugitive economic offenders की क्या definition है वो भी पता होना आपको important है, and obviously we have a law regarding this as well. Coming to the world page, Kenya में we are seeing anti-government protests. Then Thailand Prime Minister dissolves the parliament and calls for elections. So Thailand में फिर से general elections होने वाले हैं. Yemen में groups they agree to prisoner swap as peace efforts they accelerate. So Yemen में peace steps, peace efforts they are basically accelerating. So Yemen's Houthi rebels and internationally recognized government agreed at talks in Switzerland to swap more than 880 prisoners, which is an effort to accelerate the end of this war. And the move comes as a result of the restoration of ties between Iran and Saudi Arabia, who have supported the opposing sides in this conflict. So Yemen conflict में Iran and Saudi Arabia दोनों opposite side पे थे. And recently we saw कि उनके diplomatic relations they have been restored basically because of a deal that was brokered by China. So उसकी वजह से we are seeing कि इस war में भी this would be helpful in ending this war. एंड कल ही हमने ये देखा था कि जो इंटरनेशनल क्रिमिनल कोर्ट है क्या वो रशिया के अगेंस्ट भी, क्योंकि रशिया इज नॉट अ मेंबर ऑफ आईसीसी, सो कैन इट इशू वारंट अगेंस्ट द अरेस्ट अगेंस्ट पुतिन फॉर हिज अरेस्ट or not? So the answer was yes, it can, and we discussed about article, as far as I can recall, it was article 12, जिसके अंडर ICC it can issue a warrant despite Russia not being part of the International Criminal Court. सो नेपाल बीइंग नेबर ऑफ इंडिया, तो हमें पता होना चाहिए कि वहाँ की पॉलिटिकल सिचुएशन क्या है, क्या वहाँ पे चेंजेस आ रहे हैं. सो पीएम प्रचंडा ही विंस द सेकंड वोट ऑफ कॉन्फिडेंस इन लेस देन 3 months. सो वहाँ पे बेसिकली प्राइम मिनिस्टर्स उनके बहुत जल्दी चेंज होते रहते हैं. तो रिसेंटली अगेन प्राइम मिनिस्टर इज प्रचंडा and famously he is known as Prachanda, otherwise his name is Pushpa Kamal Dahal. So he has been again sworn in as the Prime Minister of Nepal because he won the trust vote. So India's current account deficit narrows down and bolsters rupee against the global risk. So coming from finance ministry, so we are seeing कि हमारा current account deficit वो कम हो रहा है, साथ ही साथ rupee भी strengthen हो रहा है. So rupee is appreciating, we can say. So finance ministry concedes that economic growth could have been higher in Q3, but asserts that growth momentum has not been lost. So growth momentum पे कोई impact नहीं हुआ है despite the global जो banking sector में crisis we are seeing, and we are seeing a jump in the services exports, which is helping our current account. So services exports, and obviously ये भी पता होना चाहिए कि we are having a surplus in the सर्विसेज अकाउंट. सो अगर हम बेसिकली खाली सर्विसेज की बात करें तो उसमें वी हैव सरप्लस, दैट इज वी एक्सपोर्ट मोर ऑफ सर्विसेज एंड इम्पोर्ट लेस ऑफ देम. सो दैट इज ऑल्सो हेल्पिंग अस इन रिड्यूसिंग द करंट अकाउंट डेफिसिट ऑल्सो. सो बफर अगेंस्ट द रिस्क. सो बफर मेंटेन करना अगेंस्ट, ऑब्वियसली देयर इज अनसर्टेनिटी, देयर आर सर्टेन रिस्क. सो बफर हमें help कर सकते हैं. So finance ministry sees the current account deficit progressively narrowing down, helping cushion the rupee in uncertain times, and macroeconomic stability to get a boost this fiscal year, as current account deficit is set to narrow from the year beginning estimates. So आने वाले टाइम में भी we are expecting कि current account deficit और कम हो सकता है, जो कि हमारी macroeconomic stability को और ज़्यादा strengthen करेगा. And moderation in the oil prices, so even oil prices they are also falling, so that would be helping in reducing the import intensive consumption demand. And it also cites contraction in the manufacturing gross value added as a key factor in the slower Q3 growth. So manufacturing की जो gross value added है manufacturing sector में हमें contraction देखने को मिल रहा है. So उसकी वजह से Q3 की जो growth है उस पर भी हमें impact देखने को मिला. So that's there. And so smuggling of gold likely hits 4-year high. So smuggling of gold increase हो रही है, and ये हमें बेसिकली ऑब्वियसली जो सीजर के इंसिडेंसेस होते हैं उससे पता चल रहा है कि गोल्ड की स्मगलिंग इट इज ऑन अ 4-year हाई एंड सीजर्स ऑफ स्मगल्ड गोल्ड दे हैव शॉट अप टू अ 4-year हाई इन 2022-23, indicating an alarming rise in the unauthorized trade of the yellow metal following the import duty increases which was implemented in last July. So gold की जो import duty थी उसको increase कर दिया गया, उसकी वजह से we are seeing कि smuggling of gold increase हुआ है. सो ऑब्वियसली स्मगलिंग ऑफ गोल्ड अगर आप करोगे तो जिस प्राइस पे आपको गोल्ड मिलेगा वो कम होगा, क्योंकि इम्पोर्ट ड्यूटी अगर हमने इंक्रीज करी है तो अगर आप लीगल तरीके से विल बी इम्पोर्टिंग गोल्ड सो ऑब्वियसली वो आपको ज्यादा कॉस्टली पड़ेगा. सो उसकी वजह से वी आर सीइंग कि इलीगल एक्टिविटीज या स्मगलिंग ऑफ गोल्ड दैट हैज इंक्रीज्ड. सो ये लिंक भी पता होना चाहिए, ऐसे सेंटेंसेस प्रीलिम्स में पूछे जाते हैं. And Sensex, it slides by 0.6% on the global banking crisis. So right now, we are still seeing key indexes, the stock market, it is falling and it is bearish as of now. So moving to Mint, यहाँ पे ऑब्वियसली हम बहुत ज़्यादा बात करते ही रहते हैं रिगार्डिंग द आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस. सो हियर वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट द जनरेटिव आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस. सो विल इट चेंज द वे वी यूज द एप्लीकेशंस और नॉट? ऑब्वियसली ये हमारा टाइम बचाएगी एंड चीज़ें और ज़्यादा एफिशिएंट हो जाएगी, जो कॉस्ट है वो कम हो जाएगी. सो बेसिकली ऑल इन ऑल एफिशिएंसी वुड इंक्रीज. सो कुछ सीरियस कंटेंडर्स जो कि रिसेंट टाइम में इमर्ज हुए हैं, यू कैन सी एप्पल में वी हैव पॉपकैट. ओपन आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस का वी हैव GPT-4 जो मल्टीपल प्रोडक्ट्स हैं. देन डीप माइंड का वी हैव स्पैरो. अमेजोन का देयर आर मल्टीपल प्रोडक्ट्स. सेल्सफोर्स देयर इज आइंस्टाइन GPT. सो GPT बेसिकली अगर आपने यूज नहीं किया तो एक बार आपको जाके यूज करना चाहिए. यू नीड टू सी कि हाउ इट वर्क्स एंड विद इन सेकेंड्स आपको कैसे डेटा आपको प्रोवाइड कर देता है. यू जस्ट नीड टू एंटर द कीवर्ड जो आपको चाहिए, जो आपको सर्च करना है, एंड व्हेन यू क्लिक द सर्च बटन आपको सारी चीजें विद इन सेकेंड्स यू विल हैव इट इन फ्रंट ऑफ यू. सो पर्पस यहाँ पे मेंशन्ड है. सो दैट्स देयर. ऑब्वियसली चीजें हाउ वी बेसिकली यूज देम दैट वुड बी चेंजिंग. एंड यहाँ पे गूगल क्या ऑफर कर रहा है, माइक्रोसॉफ्ट क्या ऑफर, ये इतना इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं है. लेट्स मूव ऑन टू द नेक्स्ट टॉपिक. हिस्ट्री ऑफ फेलियर्स, इसको समझना इंपॉर्टेंट है, या फिर हमें कुछ ऐसे एग्जांपल्स पता होना, केस स्टडीज पता होना इज इंपॉर्टेंट इन द कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ हिस्ट्री ऑफ फेलियर्स. सो यहाँ हम बैंकिंग फेलियर्स की बात कर रहे हैं क्योंकि रिसेंटली यूएसए में two banks, that is Credit Suisse and the Silicon Valley Bank, they have failed. So US financial crisis of 2008, it ripped through its banking system. Obviously, every one of us know about the global financial crisis of 2008 and उसका क्या cascading effect था world over, वो भी हमें देखने को मिला in 2008. So between 2008 and 2012, 465 American banks, they shut down their assets worth $689 billion. And in 2010, the Barack Obama administration passed the Dodd-Frank Act, which aimed to make the system safer for depositors and less onerous for the taxpayers. So regulations were tightened, banks designated as too big to fail, they were subjected to stress test. So कुछ banks, ये भी हमने इंडिया के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में भी बात करी थी कुछ दिन पहले कि डोमेस्टिकली सिस्टमैटिकली इंपॉर्टेंट बैंक्स क्या होते हैं, क्या क्राइटेरिया होता है एंड क्यों ऐसे बैंक्स रिकॉग्नाइज किए जाते हैं. सो यू नीड टू हैव अ रीलुक एट दैट वीडियो. एंड यूएसए ने भी बेसिकली रेगुलेशंस और टाइटन कर दी थी आफ्टर दिस incidents or this event in USA and world over obviously, so different countries and different measures there, but here we are talking in the context of US. So regulations were tightened. banks जो कुछ बैंक्स जो टू बिग टू फेल थे, जो बेसिकली जिनका नेटवर्क वाज वेरी वाइड एंड डाइवर्स एंड इट वाज वेरी डीप, सो ऐसे बैंक्स आइडेंटिफाई किए गए एंड टाइम टू टाइम उनके स्ट्रेस टेस्ट भी किए गए कि टू लुक इन द सिचुएशन कि इफ एवरीथिंग इज फाइन और नॉट. सो दीज वर सम ऑफ द थिंग्स. एंड डिपॉजिट सर्च में सो सिलिकॉन वैली बैंक इज द लार्जेस्ट बैंक फेलियर सिंस 2008. नो डाउट ये इसके बारे में हम बात कर चुके हैं, हम देख चुके हैं. एंड बेसिकली ये बैंक फेल क्यों हुआ, सिलिकॉन वैली बैंक, क्योंकि मेन क्लाइंट्स वर these startups. So because of the tight monetary policy, obviously जो cost of borrowing थी for these startups वो increase हो गई, क्योंकि tight monetary policy की वजह से जो policy rate था वो increase किया गया. And सेकेंडली जो इन्वेस्टर्स थे ऑब्वियसली उन्होंने भी अपना पैसा कम इन्वेस्ट करने लग गए, क्योंकि उनके लिए अब सेफर इन्वेस्टमेंट ऑप्शन हो गया कि वो अपना पैसा बैंक में डालेंगे, क्योंकि इंटरेस्ट रेट अब उनको ज्यादा मिल रहा है बाय द बैंक, तो वो उनके लिए एक सेफर इन्वेस्टमेंट ऑप्शन हो गया इंस्टेड ऑफ इन्वेस्टिंग इन स्टार्टअप। सो उनको स्टार्टअप्स को बेसिकली फाइनेंसिंग प्रॉब्लम्स आने लगी, एंड दैट्स व्हेन जो यूएसए बैंक्स में मेजर जो पैसा डिपॉजिट किया जाता है दैट इज बाय द कॉर्पोरेट, सो वो अपना पैसा विड्रॉ करने लगे, एंड एट द सेम टाइम इतनी सारी विड्रॉल की डिमांड्स आएंगी तो उसकी वजह से जो प्रेशर था ऑन द सिलिकॉन वैली बैंक वो इंक्रीज हो गया अल्टीमेटली, व्हिच लेड टू इट्स फेलियर। एंड इंडिया में अगर हम बात करें तो इंडिया में जो डिपॉजिट स्ट्रक्चर है दैट इज कम्प्लीटली डिफरेंट फ्रॉम व्हाट इज देयर इन द यूएस बैंक्स। सो यूएसए में जैसा भी बताया मैंने कि कॉर्पोरेट्स का मेजर शेयर है, इंडिया में इट इज द हाउस होल्ड सेविंग्स जो मेजर शेयर है इन द बैंक डिपॉजिट्स। सो दैट्स हाउ वी आर डिफरेंट। इंश्योरेंस कवर प्रोवाइड की जाती है, सो शेयर ऑफ डिपॉजिट्स व्हिच वर नॉट कवर्ड बाय इंश्योरेंस इन द सिलिकॉन वैली बैंक वाज हाईएस्ट, इट वाज एट 93.8%। जो भी डिपॉजिट्स थे इन द सिलिकॉन वैली बैंक they were not insured, and different banks में obviously share is very high। so इंडिया में भी आपको डिपॉजिट इंश्योरेंस प्रोवाइड की जाती है टू द ट्यून ऑफ ₹5 लाख। अगर आपके 5 लाख या उससे कम डिपॉजिट्स है तो आपको कोई टेंशन लेने की जरूरत नहीं है। एंड यूएसए में भी दैट इज देयर, सो द अमाउंट इज अराउंड $250,000। सो ये मैं आपको बता चुकी हूँ। लेट्स मूव फॉरवर्ड टू अनदर न्यूज़पेपर। Coming to Financial Express, so UBS, basically UBS Bank is taking over Credit Suisse. So ये दोनों banks पहले rival थे, but now UBS took benefit of this opportunity and it is taking over the Credit Suisse Bank. So a deal that's been brokered by the government is worth $3.2 billion. So we are seeing indices, they are recovering back after 900-point fall, and that's how you can see the index, how it performed. And it is still down by 360 points. So Sensex on, this is basically the intraday chart. So that's where it opened and here it closed down. So this is the level at 57,628 level. It closed down, which is still below around 630 points. And top 5 losers in Nifty were Bajaj Finance, Bajaj Finserv, Adani Enterprises, Bajaj Finance, Hindalco, Tata Steel. So having like just an idea about it. So China and Russia, you know about their friendship. And in this picture, friends day out at the Kremlin. So big shareholders, they seek to cash in as volatility is very high. So volatility, basically, the fluctuations here, they are very high. So people are obviously, either they are like, basically they are moving out their money so as to stay safe. So adopt smart prepaid meters. So electricity consumers, they should use these smart prepaid meters. So basically यहाँ पे आपको पहले पैसे देने पड़ते हैं in order to get electricity supply in your houses. So if you have a smart prepaid meter, your cost of electricity will come down by 2 to 2.5%. क्योंकि आपको obviously पहले पता होगा कि कितना amount of units you can use more, क्योंकि आपको पैसे पहले देने पड़ते हैं, रिचार्ज करना पड़ता है that smart meter, and that's when you will be getting electricity supply in your house. So इसकी वजह से आपका जो usage of electricity होगा and obviously your cost that would come down. Prime Minister says कि जो center की debt profile है that is safe and prudent. And having a look at the numbers, so total amount of central government debt or liabilities, they are estimated at about rupees 155.8 trillion, which is around 57.3% of the GDP. And out of this, the external debt, the debt valued at the current exchange rate is estimated at only 2.6% of GDP. So external debt sources India में बहुत कम है. Share is only 2.6%. So that's also one of the reasons why we say Indian economy is resilient. That's how we are able to maintain our stability, the macroeconomic stability. That's how we are able to have strong macroeconomic fundamentals also. So externally अगर हमारी dependence कम रहेगी, अगर हम external sources, debt sources पे कम dependent रहेंगे तो obviously जो risk रहेगा वो भी कम रहेगा. And the share of external debt is about 4.5% of the total debt and liabilities of the central government. So total debt की अगर हम बात करें तो share of external debt is only about 4.5%, and the rest बाकी सारा debt is from the domestic sources. So external debt, it is mostly financed by the multilateral and bilateral agencies at the concessional rates. Therefore, the risk profile stands out as safe and prudent. So external sources bhi hamare are majorly multilateral and bilateral agencies. So that's there. So alternative fertilizers units would be set up and natural nutrients promotion की जाएगी. So guidelines regarding the same would be also issued, and a PM Pranam is the scheme that is going to reward the states for subsidy reduction. So that's how states would be pushed for reducing their subsidy in case of fertilizers. So जो states successful रहेंगी, जो maximum achievement show करेंगी, उनको PM Pranam scheme के अंदर reward भी किया जाएगा. So incentives for reducing the chemical nutrients. So fertilizers ministry, it will soon issue guidelines for the launching of PM Pranam scheme. So this scheme is meant to involve states in reaching out to farmers to achieve a balanced use of the chemical nutrients. So overuse of chemical nutrients and insecticides, pesticides की वजह से we are seeing कि soil loses its fertility, and जो quality of land है, जो productivity है, उस पे impact होता है. So that's how basically this is one the way why basically how the central government is trying to ensure कि fertilizer subsidy कम हो जाए, and we are basically able to restore the balance between the chemical nutrients in the soil. And the center will financially reward the states on 50-50 sharing basis on the total savings on the subsidy outgo. So that's how center is going to financially reward the states, and the annual consumption of fertilizers is around 65 million tons, and the demand for the soil nutrients is rising by around 1.5% annually. So it is important that there's a balance. So balanced application is very important here. So we are seeing distress sale of onion and potato. So top में tomato, onion and potato, we are seeing कि their prices are in the negative territory, and on the other side हमारे लिए cereal inflation एक major cause of concern है, because food prices are increasing, food inflation is increasing, and only in top we are seeing कि the prices are in the negative territory. So you can see how different things can be. And now moving on to Indian Express. So Amritpal Singh has still not been arrested, and his aides and uncles, they face NSA Act. So that has been applied. And center calls for alert at Pakistan and Nepal borders. The airports are also on the watch. So he might, obviously, he might be trying to escape to these two neighboring countries, but let's see what is going to happen. So Chief Justice of India says that sealed cover practices that must end and goes against the process of fair justice. So क्योंकि sealed cover practices basically अगर government sealed cover में judiciary को information provide करेगी, so obviously transparency के ऊपर तो question raise होंगे, and process of fair justice भी will not be able to meet that. And moving forward. So coming directly to the coming directly to the editorials. So Bhopal is hosting the ISSF World Cup, and it would be happening in Bhopal. So ISRO's LBM-3 is going to launch the second fleet of 36 satellites on Sunday, so eyeing the satellite market. So with the space sector opening up to the private players in 2020, several startups, they have also emerged, focusing on the building satellites and their applications. So ISRO too, it has developed a small satellite launch vehicle for the commercial market. So India aims to increase its current 2% share of the commercial market to 10% by 2030. So you can see LVM3 at the launch pad in Sriharikota, Andhra Pradesh. And that's how India is taking a lead. Moving forward, so an RBI lesson for Europe. So Credit Suisse saga shows that the European central banks, they have been unable to store the markets through turmoil. So an RBI lesson for Europe is that it needs to be pointed out that the Reserve Bank of India and the government, they have worked in unison ever since the pandemic began to stir the economy, and the playbook adopted by RBI in times of crisis, deployed at a systemic level and led by large and systematically important banks, has been the best integrated policy response, both even in 2008 and in 2020. So RBI and government कैसे वो दोनों साथ में काम करते हैं जब भी हमें ऐसी कोई क्राइसिस वाली सिचुएशन देखने को मिलती है, एंड जो सिस्टमैटिकली इंपॉर्टेंट बैंक्स हैं उनका भी बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट रोल रहता है. सो ये हमने सक्सेस देखी 2008 में भी एंड अभी तक 2020 में भी, बिकॉज ऑफ दीज टू इवेंट्स, फेलियर ऑफ द टू बैंक्स, इंडिया में अभी ऐसा कोई मेजर इम्पैक्ट नहीं हुआ है. So Indian banks, they are sound financial, they are in sound financial health, they are very strong, they are stable, they are healthy. Moreover, when compared to the other major countries, India has the least foreign claims, both on the counterparty basis and on the guarantor basis. So जैसे कि देखा यहाँ पे भी हमारी जो foreign claims है, जो foreign dependence है, that is very less. So additionally, our ratio of the foreign claims to the domestic claims is also the least among the countries, signaling that our banking and financial system is very disciplined, and that no fear that an international balance sheet contagion can originate from here. So this is one of the main reasons why we are able to avoid the impacts of such things at the global level. So it needs to be pointed out that banks in emerging economies, they are now on track for more robust performance on the back of a robust regulatory framework, greater policy initiatives framed in coordination by both regulators and the governments. So the solution to the dog-human incidents, it lies in the stricter pet ownership laws. So we are seeing such instances are on rise. Ki dogs, jo stray dogs hai, they are causing human deaths, specifically of children. So when resources are available, dog density will continue to increase, especially if the people they feed the dogs on the streets. So ऐसे areas में हमें देखने को मिला कि जो dog density and number of dogs that would increase, and only the long-term solution is to implement strict pet ownership laws and prohibit the people from carelessly feeding the dogs everywhere, and set up facilities funded by the animal welfare organizations that can either house the dogs for life or they can humanely euthanize them also. So that's what the author is providing us. So as long as the dogs they are homeless on the streets, the idea of the rabies-free India with the harmonious coexistence between the people and dogs will be a utopian dream. And keeping dogs homeless is bad for dogs, bad for people, and bad for the wildlife. So it is important to have even a policy regarding this, because we are seeing the instances are increasing. And then we have the Animal Welfare Board of India, which is a statutory body under the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act, which was promulgated the Animal Birth Control Rules in 2001, and it is now replaced with the even more draconian ABC Rules 2023. So this policy was meant to control both the dog population as well as the deadly rabies virus. However, we are seeing that the ABC rules, they are not based on the scientific evidence and violate the guidelines which are provided by WHO and the World Organization for Animal Health for preventing rabies. So we need to look more into about the World Organization for Animal Health, and basically it is believed that these new ABC rules of 2023, they are not scientific, they're not based on scientific evidence, and they even violate the guidelines by WHO. So it is easier said than done for a country with a dog population of around 60 to 80 million, and to expect a developing country like India to invest thousands of crores of rupees to set up the necessary infrastructure and deploy lakhs of people to catch dogs, operate on them, and take care of it. It is a pipe dream. And especially considering that many regions of this country, they do not have adequate infrastructure for the public health. So public health पे हमें काम करने की जरूरत है, अभी वहाँ we are lacking. So how can we expect कि we spend thousands of crores of rupees on controlling the dog population and ensuring कि ऐसे incidences ना हो? So thousands of crores तो we cannot spend, because जब हम बात करें education sector की, public health की, तो we need to perform really well even there. There's a lot of scope, there's a lot of potential even in those areas. So that's basically the thing. So credit issues in the global banking turmoil, इसकी डिटेल्स में हम इतना ज़्यादा नहीं जाएंगे, because इस टॉपिक को हम वैसे ही बहुत ज़्यादा डिस्कस कर चुके हैं कि 2 बैंक्स फेल हुए। मैंने आपको रीज़न क्लियरली बता दिया आज की वीडियो में कि सिलिकॉन वैली बैंक क्यों फेल हुआ, इंडियन बैंकिंग सिस्टम कैसे रेजिलेंट है, क्या उसके पीछे रीज़न है, वाई वी आर सो स्टेबल, वाई वी आर सो डिसिप्लिन्ड, वो हम सब डिस्कस कर चुके हैं। सो इवन गवर्नमेंट ने भी असेस किया इस चीज को कि अगर आने वाले टाइम में भी अगर कोई ग्लोबल फाइनेंशियल टर्मोइल होता है तो इंडिया पे वो क्या इम्पैक्ट कर सकता है। सो ये असेसमेंट भी वी आर इनटू दैट, एंड गवर्नमेंट इज क्लोजली ट्रैकिंग द पोटेंशियल चैनल्स, क्या पोटेंशियल चैनल्स है, क्या पोटेंशियल इम्पैक्ट हो सकता है, किस तरीके से इंडियन इकोनॉमी के ऊपर ऐसे ग्लोबल फाइनेंशियल टर्मोइल्स का इम्पैक्ट हो सकता है। वी आर ऑलरेडी असेसिंग दैट. And according to policy experts working alongside the government, there is comfort in the prevailing macroeconomic situation. So हमारी इंडियन इकोनॉमी पे अभी ऐसा कोई इम्पैक्ट नहीं है because of this. So India's domestic air passenger traffic, that is growing. So civil aviation industry, we expect it is going to grow in future. And so that's all for today. Thank you for joining in Sarkari, and I hope you have understood, you have really well understood all the key topics that we have discussed today. Apart from this, you will be also provided with the PDF, and the link of that would be shared in the description box, so you can have a look at that also. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please subscribe, because it takes a lot of efforts and time in making these analysis videos. And please hit the like button for this video and share it as much as possible. Thank you so much for joining us.